In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row that mark our place. And in the sky the larks, still bravely singing, fly. Scarce heard amid the guns below, we are the dead, short days ago. We lived, felt down, saw sunset glow, loved, and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high, if ye break faith with us who die. We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Hello, all. Today is November the 11th, Remembrance Day here in Canada, Veterans Day in the United States. Remembrance Day for me has always been a personal one, not because I served. I had family that did, but by no means of the stretch of the imagination did I serve. But it has always meant a lot to me. I have, over the years, gotten fighting mad when I see something that I feel is disrespectful. I've raised Cain at the Manitoba legislature a few times when they decided to raise the flags by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But for me, Remembrance Day is a day that we should all set aside a few minutes out of our day. It's not asking very much. For the men and women who gave way more than that. They gave their time, some of them gave their lives, blood, sweat, and tears, so that we, as a civilization, can live with the luxuries we have. If it wasn't for the blood of those men and women, we would not be here right now. We would not have the life we have. And for that, we never should forget the sacrifices that have been made. It is getting popular to just kind of brush over it. It's a day off. For some it's not. It's just another day on the calendar. And to me, that's sad. It should never be just another day on the calendar. It is the day that every one of us should bow our head for a couple minutes and just say thank you to those faceless men and women we've never met, never knew, and some we did, that were willing to stand up and say, I'll give my life for him or her. I'll give my life so that they don't have to. So at the end of the day, reflect on today and think of that. Give them the respect that they deserve. Today is their day. Thank you to anyone who has served. Whether you went into active service or not, the minute you put on that uniform, thank you. Because without men and women like that, we would not have the world we have. For it's good and it's bad. But we would not enjoy the luxuries we have without them. So please do not allow this day just to be another day on the calendar. I also would like to thank every creator that I reached out to that are participating in this video. Thank you all. And most importantly, never forget, and with much respect, I say thank you.
In the United States, we observe this day as Veterans Day, but in other countries, it is known as Remembrance Day. No matter what you call this day, it is still a day to reflect, remember, and be thankful for all of those that have served and continue to serve so that we can keep our freedom. Freedom is not free, and we should never take that for granted. My family has many that have served and even served in some great moments. Directly related to me is my own brother who is in the Air Force Reserves. I remember when he was 14 years old during 9/11, and if he could have joined the military that day, he would have guns blazing, and there is a story behind that one. 4 years later, when he graduated, he made the decision to not go into full service, but he continues to serve in the reserves today at the age of 35. Both of my grandfathers were in the Air Force full time, both stationed in Northern California during World War II. And my grandfather, that is still living today, was stationed in Korea during the Korean War. My great uncle served in World War II in the Navy and actually drove one of the amphibious ships on V Day. He passed away last year at the age of 95. Both of his sons, my second cousins, went on to serve in the Army. The husband of my second cousin also served in the Army during the Vietnam War, and he has many stories that he can share. A lot he doesn't. I know it has affected him in the way he is today. I will never forget the many sacrifices that my family members and ancestors made so that I may live in the freedoms I have today. May we all never forget this and continue to remember and honor our veterans on this day.
Hey, when Rambling Canuck contacted me to put something together for November 11th, Remembrance Day here in Canada, Veterans Day down south, I knew I wanted to do something different. I've never served in the military, but I do enjoy all the freedoms provided to me through the sacrifice of others who have. Having never been to war, it's a difficult thing to know how to speak on it, but I'm lucky enough to know people who have. My great grandfather helped raise me, and he was an important part of my early life and still is today. And I'm fortunate enough that before he passed, he was part of a study at a university close by, talking about history and his experiences. He volunteered and fought with the 16th Battalion, the Canadian Scottish, in the 3rd Canadian Brigade of the 1st Canadian Division, under Sir Arthur Currie. I've done my best to clean up the audio. This is as good as it gets for me. And so I give to you the battle for Hill 70 in his own words.
Our next trip was to take Hill 70. France had tried to take it. English, British had tried to take it. They couldn't take it. So they put the Canadians, see if they could take it. See, it overlooked a big valley there that was right down the hill, you know. Of course, that's the trouble. We was all down the holes and they was up in high ground. And we always had to go up. But anyway, we took that hill with very few casualties. How? Well, they put a barge on there, and that's the first time we ever used a machine gun barge. 1st Canadian Division. And so they put on the barge, you see. And we were right behind it. Just like a hill song. You understand? You just walk back behind it. We hardly lost a man. Took prisoners. They didn't know, really, who was there. They don't know who was on top of them before. They didn't have a chance in the world. Of course, the Canadian troops, you know, there wasn't any better troops in France or anywhere than the Canadian Corps. Oh, Sir Arthur Currie made that one of the best fighting corps in France. The best artillery, best everything. And the machine gun barge that the others didn't have. See? Oh, yeah. Well, we took that, hold it. We held up for 48 hours. We put on 4 counterattacks that afternoon. They just disappeared like that. Artillery, machine guns. The smoke cleared, there was nothing there. Just put the SOS up, the artillery boys, I think. Yeah, we have the best artillery in France. They never saved the shells. And, see, it's one thing about the Canadian soldiers, that is, the Western guys. They thought for themselves. See, once you was in there, you got acquainted with sound. Was the big item, sound. Stay, move, stay, move. But anyway, we got over that, and we was getting relieved, and we come out as we was relieved, you know, just ones and twos, just as you were relieved. That's the way you come out of the line. And we gathered up before we left. Oh, it was different altogether. It's hard to tell somebody that was never there what it was like. We didn't think any more of our officers. He was just one of us. We didn't think any more of the old generals. It never meant anything to us. You understand? Because when you went over the top, you was all on your own. Nobody holding your hand. You had to figure your own way of getting to your objective, and that was taught into you.
So, what does Remembrance Day mean to me? Well, it means the same to me as it should to all of us. It means everything.
Hey y'all, it's Arwen. I've been thinking about upcoming Veterans Day here in the United States and Remembrance Day in Canada. And it takes me back to as a little girl, we always began the school day with saying the Pledge of Allegiance. And although it was habit, even at that young age, I knew it meant something important. But it was when I got older, however, that I came to understand exactly what those words meant. And I take pride in them. Pride to be an American whose country was founded on the principles of freedom, and how those principles, those very principles, are woven into the fabric of our Constitution. And it's days like Veterans Day that remind me of the brave men and women who fought for this country, whose sacrifices, past and present, help keep us free and help keep us living the lives that we want to live. For better or for worse, we're free to make those choices and free to make our own lives. These men and women are a very special breed, and they really are. They are a band of brothers and sisters to whom I truly give my deepest respect and gratitude. So for me, I want to say let's remember those who have come before, and for those who still serve. And to all of them, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your sacrifices. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your protection. And most of all, thank you for your service. Bye, y'all.
Hello world, it's Berto Pray 5, Cupla. It's Veterans Day, or at least close to it, Remembrance Day in other parts of the world. I've been asked, what does Veterans Day mean to me? Well, not a veteran myself, obviously, but certainly respect the day, respect the people who have put their lives on the line for this country and the other free countries of the world. I go back to my grandfather, Papa O'Prey, if you will, who did fight in World War II for the Americans, but whose story most famous story is he was shot during the Battle of the Bulge. He was shot by Germans and picked up off the battlefield by Americans, but for some reason dropped off at the German side of a hospital that the Americans were running. And so when they came to treat his wounds, they went to speak to him in German, but he didn't speak German. He's like, he's like, I'm an American. And they're like, oh, you speak good English for a Kraut. Well, after a few minutes, he finally must have said something that they realized he was no German. And the person in charge had a conniption that this mistake could have even happened. And then they had him brought from the German side of the hospital to the American side, where presumably he received better treatment. And obviously, he did receive enough that he came home, fathered my father, a brother, a sister, now my aunt and uncle, and then my father fathered me, Cecil Prey, and that is history. And I'm here to tell the story, and I really miss Papa O'Prey, who lived many years after the war, but unfortunately did pass away many years too early. And I think about all the other stories that, people have, soldiers have. Some like to tell their stories, like Papa O'Prey. He didn't mind sharing what he saw. But there's also a lot who don't tell their stories and don't want to. Like I have a great uncle who was also in World War II, but doesn't want to speak about it. And I get that too. So it's just a way to remember those who made the choice to fight. Some people had better experiences than others, but all of them have my utmost respect. So I join you, the other viewers, in wishing I don't know if happy is the word, but a content Veterans Day to all those who see this. Kapla.
Shout out to my brother Ramlin Canuck for inviting me to give my perspective on Veterans Day. My dad, Robert Estrada, was a Marine, served 3 tours in Vietnam. Although I was never in the service, the honor and respect that I have for those that are carries on through this day. What I'd like to do is read a poem that was shared with me by one of my trainers, mentors, and role models in life, a gentleman by the name of John Farnham. John's president of an organization called Defensive Training International. He's authored 3 books on the subject, graduated from Cornell College with a BA in biology, was in the Marine Corps, is a combat veteran. His bio is up on the screen. He's an amazing man, an amazing American, fantastic role model, and an absolute amazing example of what this country has in our veterans. John is a friend, and I have the honor of seeing him 2 to 3 times a year when I attend his trainings. And at one of those trainings, he shared with me this amazing poem, which I'm going to bring up on screen, which I think would be wonderful to share with everyone, because many men have stood and fought for this Constitution, for our Bill of Rights, and for the values that founded this country. And we need to stand for those rights and honor those that have given their life, risked their life, and been of service so that we can enjoy the life that we have. This is by Anonymous. It's called The Defensive Rifle. Men may argue forever on what wins their wars and welter in cons and pros and seek for their answer at history's door. But the man with the rifle knows. He must stand on the ground on his own 2 feet, and he is never in doubt when it's won. If it's won, he's there. If he's not, it's defeat. That's the test when the fighting is done. When he carries the fight, it's not with the roar of high armored wings spitting death. He creeps and he crawls on the earthen floor, butt down and holding his breath, saving his strength for the last slow rush, grenade throw, and bayonet thrust, and the whispered prayer before he goes in, of a man who does what he must. And when he's attacked, he can't zoom away. When the shells fill the air with their sound, he stays where he is, loosens his spade, and digs his defense in the ground. That ground isn't ours till he's there in the flesh. Not a gadget or a bomb, but a man. He's the answer to trite theories from those who weren't there, with each new piece since war began. And it isn't the fear, and it isn't the hope, the spirit, the disgrace, or the pride. It's just the fiber alone to go one more round after all the machines have died. So let the wild circle of argument rage on what wins as war comes and goes. Many new theories briefly hold center stage, but the man with the rifle knows. My deep thanks and my gracious thanks to all those who have served. I'm honored to have known my dad, who basically married my mom, who already had me, and treated me like a son from day one. I'm honored by all the veterans who have served, by John Farnham and all the friends that I have online throughout the world that I've come to know. Thank you for everything that you've done. And on this Veterans Day, let us remember the sacrifices of the many so that the few of us that are still here and remain can enjoy the liberties that this country was founded on.
A message of remembrance to the living, to the dead, and what it means to me. We will remember them. For over 100 years we have said this, across many generations, across many nations. Yet, is it enough? Is it enough to only remember the sacrifice of oh so many millions, who gave their blood, sweat, toil, and tears, who gave their all, who gave their lives for what we have today? Is it enough to only remember them, not including those who gave their all and lived to tell the tale? Is it enough to remember them? No. Though it is enough to honor them, to those who stand and to those who fall for what we have today, we will honor them and forever ensure that their sacrifice has not been in vain. Even if it means giving our all, for we will remember them in doing so by honoring their fall. As future generations live free and stand tall, honoring the sacrifices of those who came before, to ensure their future would prevail once more. That way, we'll be here to honor and to remember them all.
Greetings to my neighbors to the north. I am Deleted Scenes. I want to wish you a happy Remembrance Day. I want to dedicate this message to everyone who served, past, present, and future. You will be remembered not only in your home country, but in every country. And I salute you.
Veterans really mean a lot to me. I come from a family of many military veterans. My dad, who has unfortunately passed away, was a Korean War veteran. You can only imagine what it was like for an 18-year-old boy from South Georgia that was a Marine to be there from the beginning of the end to the end of the Korean War. He didn't talk about it a lot, but he did tell me some stories about it, and it's crazy what he went through. He was a survivor of the Frozen Chosen, or what they also call the Chosen Few that survived the Chosen Reservoir. And he was also a two-time vet because later in life he was in the Army National Guard and then active duty Army later in life. But I also have a brother that retired as a lieutenant colonel in the Army. He was in everything from Panama up to Afghanistan before he retired. All the different conflicts and wars and stuff like that. But digressing even on my own family, people that are veterans, they give themselves to their country, to their fellow countrymen, so we can continue to live this life that we live. Whether you agree with the government does what the government doesn't do, for better or worse, if it wasn't for people like our veterans, we wouldn't be sitting here in the freedoms that we have. And for somebody that will lay down their life for us to wake up every day, go about our business in a free, peaceful society, it really means something to me, even if I didn't have veterans in my family. And, I call them kids because, I think the average age of people in the United States, either way in the military, is 20-something years old or somewhere around there. And I run into them all the time. I'm flying out of Atlanta. It's a major hub of the Southeast. And you run into them all the time that are in transit to wherever it is they're going in uniform. And the thing that's sad to me is nowadays, a lot of people look at me funny because anytime I see them in the airport, as I do to any veteran, I say, thank you for your service. And you can tell they really appreciate that you acknowledge, and I'm talking to probably, a 19-year-old kid from no telling where, and he's in the airport in Atlanta, and people around you look at you like, why are you talking to this random person? But it's because I truly believe I'm a patriotic person, whether I believe in what's going on in the country right now or not going on in the country right now, or whatever country you're in. It's because of veterans and our military, people that are willing to lay their lives down for us to live the life we live. And I think a lot of people don't really think about that, especially if you don't have veterans necessarily in your family, like I do. I guess some people just don't really think about it. They don't think that they can sleep peacefully at night because there's a 19, 20-year-old guy or girl somewhere willing to lay their life down for you. And, that really means something to me. I think that's one of the highest honors is being a veteran. And it doesn't matter if you weren't in a war. It doesn't, just being in the military and being a veteran, period, gives you my highest admiration because not everybody can do that. I didn't go in the military, but other people were there in my place to protect us and keep us safe. So I always consider veterans in the highest regard. I mean, that's one of the highest honors is to tell somebody, thank you for your service. And even if they're like, I didn't ever go anywhere, I was a truck mechanic in Colorado, that doesn't matter. If the need was there, you gave an oath and you were willing to lay your life down. So I guess that's the long and short of it. I ramble a little bit, but I love veterans, and I think we wouldn't have the freedoms we have if it wasn't for veterans. stepping up and standing in to go wherever and do whatever needs to be done, including, unfortunately, giving up their lives to keep us safe and keep us living a comfortable way of life in a free society.
What Veterans Day means to me is probably different than what it means to most people. I spent 10 years in the Marine Corps. My father was in the Navy. My grandfather on my mother's side was in the Army. My grandfather on my father's side was in the Navy. And my mother's brother was in the Navy. I've heard all sorts of stories. My grandfather on my mother's side helped write and implement the deployment plan used during Vietnam. My dad's father was on 3 different ships that all sank, and he actually saved many sailors' life on 2 of those boats by pulling shells out of the gun before they exploded, and sustained 3rd-degree burns twice. My uncle had a very tough road in the Navy. And while I had moments that I guess some people might think were tough, I remember the people that came before me, the people I felt like I was honoring when I joined the Marine Corps. And that's what Veterans Day means to me. It's remembering the veterans that came before me. And while that isn't all it is, for me, that's what I remember. I try to take a trip to the cemetery where my grandfather and my father are buried. And then I take another trip to where my dad's father is buried. And I just take time to remember the sacrifices that they had and that they gave up. My father got injured during Vietnam on the way back, threw out 3 discs in his back, and it affected him from the time he was 19 until the day he died, which was just recently 6 years ago. And he was a star pitcher and had 3 different minor league contracts that were offered to him. And he was never able to play baseball, which is something he loved after that injury. And while it seems kind of selfish that I think that way, my father didn't get the chances that many people do. And he gave up something. And that's what I like to remember. It's the things that people gave up to make the country I live in free, and to give me the choice if I wanted to go and serve or not, and never feel like I had to be forced to do it, but that I wanted to do it. That's what Veterans Day means to me.
Hello folks, this is Mr. CCDV here, otherwise known as Sergeant First Class Danny Christopher. And I would like to say that we've come back around again once more to November 11th. This is the Armistice Day, or Remembrance Day, or Veterans Day, depending on where you are in the world. I can only imagine what it must have been like for the troops during World War I who had to live through this experience. Trench warfare, I can't imagine it'd be good. I mean, I've sat in a foxhole a couple of rainy nights and I didn't like it, but for years at a time, whew, ouch, that had to hurt. Well, getting on with what this is supposed to be all about, is today is the day to thank a veteran, any veteran, whether they served in a war zone or not. This is Veterans Day, and you should give the respect to those who volunteered and actually served. Now, I've said this often, that Memorial Day is those who died, and it annoys me a little bit when people say thank a veteran on Memorial Day. What you should be doing is going to a graveyard and finding the headstones of the troops who have gone before us and putting flowers there, or giving offerings, or whatever it is you do, in order to remember those people who sacrificed their lives. Now, often on Veterans Day, you hear that people have sacrificed their lives in service, and
I can honestly say, suffering from PTSD, that it does in fact feel like suffering and giving up our lives. However, in this case, thank a veteran, and on Veterans Day at the very least, buy a coffee and a donut for someone. All right, folks, go back and listen to Stories with Mr. CCDV right here on this channel, and you'll get a little clue of what it felt like to be over there. If you haven't been over there yourself, then it should give you a little bit of a humorous idea of what most of us had gone through at some point or another who come back wearing the combat patch. All right. Have a great one, everyone, and happy Veterans Day to all those who served.
What Veterans Day means to me is a day set aside to honor all of our veterans who gave up their civilian life to serve our great nation. Whether peacetime or war, they have worked and fought for the freedom we enjoy today. If you are related to, know, or even see a former soldier, do each of them must honor and tell them thank you for their service. They deserve this nation's thanks.
The price of freedom, eternal vigilance.